Atomic batteries to power.
Now, everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, bark like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Technical knowledge.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is Anson Mount, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Don McLean, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
Hi, this is Don Most. You probably remember me as Ralph from Happy Days, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Ah, yes, you are listening to Everything Old is New Again. Thank you, Don Most and Don McLean and Anson Mount. Ooh, that is some lineup of individuals we have had here on this show. And I'm here with the rather acoustic man himself, David Cohen.
Acoustic?
Yes.
Wow. All right. Interesting. Is that a foreshadowing what the show is going to be about?
It is. Usually I try to do a name that's somewhat similar to what is the foreshadowing, let's say, of what's going to be happening. So today we have Everything Old is New Again, Unplugged. Now, what do we mean by unplugged? That's the question.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that there won't be any clips, there won't be any guests, and there won't be any topic.
That's correct.
Sounds great.
We've prepared, I've only prepared the intro and the outro, and that's it. We're just going to wing it. And it
is
doesn't
this one of these behind the scenes things?
Yes. It means that, it doesn't mean that we haven't prepared anything for the show. It means that we're going to kind of peel the onion, or what's a better way to say it? Pull back the curtain. I wish there was a better saying, but break down the fourth wall. All these different things we're going to do, so you can see inside the show.
So it's almost like you're a fly on the wall, right?
Correct.
Listening to the inner workings, the planning, the brainstorming, the genius behind Everything Old is New Again.
I couldn't have said it better. Wow. Should we start again and have you say that to begin with? Instead of all that struggle.
I'm much better when we're unscripted, Doug. That's just what I do.
Little hint, David Cohen is always unscripted, which is
true.
Perfect.
Very true.
We set it up in some ways, or maybe it developed into, except when we do interviews and characters, that's different. But, when we just do a show at this point, the first thing we used to do is get together, and we'd also almost like do a show before a show, because we would examine the topic and why we're doing it, and go into minutia as to what we're going to do, which was great. But boy, did that take a lot of time.
It did.
So I just
and then I didn't want to do it anymore. So.
Besides that, though, the main thing that you did in that regard, which I thought was great, and I always think of it, is why are we doing this show? You don't just do a show just to, let's talk about Star Trek or something, like why are we, what's the topic and why is that topic of interest? And then, so what we kind of developed into, I think, is that I do whatever I do, and then I present it on the air to you kind of for the first time as the audience member plus, if that makes any sense. So
I am the voice of the audience.
Correct. Which I think works perfectly. You tell me.
Yeah. I'm happy to go back and talk about like why are we doing the show, or how we can focus it or refocus it. But with that said, it has been working fine, where I find out what the show is about literally 5 minutes before we go on the air.
And I think it's kind of better in that. Once in a while, I'll tell you a little hint here. We're going to do Beatles or something, so you have something on your mind, because it's like the Beatles show was like 8 shows or something. So I want to give you some ideas. But for the most part, no. And for the most part, I think it works out better because our spontaneity, in high school till now, to me, is more interesting than. And I'm not an actor. You certainly have performed. I can't repeat things. Like you've seen me do one story. I think we did about the canoe story. We did like another one section over again, I think. And that's about it. Maybe one time we started laughing. Maybe we stopped and started and redid. But for the most part, I can't recreate one thing to the next and kind of regurgitate the same exact thing over again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think it works better to do it. Like if you asked me to tell
Just
one of the
go and
stories
do it.
over again, I don't think I would tell the story. I'd have to like make it up. If I was to do it on stage or something, like as a comedian or a play, I don't think I'd really have to really study it, maybe put something in my ear, hearing myself tell the story and just regurgitate it out the old way. It just wouldn't be the same way I present it. And I don't know why that. Do we even examine that? Why is that? I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the way my brain works. I don't know. I just, well, let me guess the reverse. How do you do it? By repeating the same lines, in a play, practicing it for, let's say, I don't know, rehearsing for 2 months and then doing it for, 8 shows on a weekend. What's the mindset there?
Well, it's different when you're acting in a play or film or something, because usually you have other people up there with you and you're reacting off them. And yeah, it can be repetitious from one performance to the next, right? Because you're kind of doing there's certain basic things you have to say, or you have to be at a certain place when you say it, so on and so forth. But it is different every time. It could be the way you're feeling that day. You're just going in with a different kind of energy, or maybe someone in the scene you're with is delivering a line or has a different reaction than you're used to. And if you're open to just going with whatever they're doing, it changes. The scene changes and how you're saying it changes. But in your case, especially when you're just telling a story that you created, which are not, you didn't create this, it's from your life experience generally. But to me, it makes sense that the first time you do it is going to be the best, because it's raw and you're just kind of the outline, right? You know what you're going to talk about, but you don't have a script, right? You're not reading from something. So when you do it the first time, it's you. And then if we try to go back and refine it and put a little emphasis here, or maybe skip this and over there, it's like, it's suddenly you probably in your mind, you're like, okay, how did I do it last time? Let me make sure that I got this down. And now you're in your head about it, right? So it may not sound as genuine. And I think that's what the difference is.
Yeah, genuine's a good word, or natural, right? It doesn't sound like it's coming out natural, at least for me, I'm not that kind of an actor, if you will, so it doesn't come out naturally, And you're right, the energy might be different. And also your reaction is different because you've heard that line, or now that secret, or that joke, or that, even it's not always funny, but that whatever is coming next, you've already heard.
That's a great point, right?
And so, because I would say this, if I had to do a story or a show alone, and people on the radio do it all the time with sports and politics. I mean, they have a particular topic that they're going to talk about, so I kind of can see that. But believe me, and I think there's no way that you're listening to any of these radio shows, the talk shows, whatever the topic is, the medicine or the financial, whatever. There's none of those talk shows that are not prepared. In other words, the topic and the high points of what they want to talk about and all that. The phone calls are all going to be in the same topic, so you're kind of just regurgitating the same stuff once you've presented your idea and all that. But there's no way that you didn't prepare ahead of time for it, So I guess where I was going was, there is preparation for the story. Like I say, a small outline of what happened, and maybe I'll embellish a little something here and there, but the creativity, it just happens naturally from that. And I don't think there's any way that because you're there answering questions and someone to talk to, I don't think I'd ever be able to do a story or an Everything Old is New Again without you being, does it make sense? Without you being there to feed the story, to ask the question that I didn't cover in presenting the story, or in one of these topics that we're going to talk about that we may do in the future, without hearing, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Why are we talking about, wrong way car again or something? Well, I thought you knew who that was. Like, whatever. The back and forth is so essential to the creation of this show, if that makes sense.
So you need me. Is that what you say?
Oh, I guess I did say that. Yes. I don't know if I wanted to say it that
no,
way.
No, seriously, you're right, though. You're right, because you do react off of my reaction and vice versa. And that's hard to recapture when you have to do it a few times.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And if you're doing it like
with that said, can we start again from the beginning? Because I'm not sure you're hitting all the...
If you're doing it like a stand-up or something, how do you, like these stand-up guys, like Maniscalco, that by the time he's taping in Vegas or wherever he's doing his latest show, he's done that material like hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
How the heck do you do that? It's just
well, I mean, sometimes
talent.
but even then, right? You're up there and you may not be getting the laugh that you think you're getting on a certain joke, and that that could impact how you're delivering the next part, the next bit. So it is, it's not necessarily the same every night, but yeah, if you're a great comedian and you just kill wherever you go, that's kind of, you can't let it get robotic because the audience knows, right? They're not stupid. They're very tuned in to what this means to you. And if it doesn't seem like it has any meaning to you, it loses the humor, or it loses the seriousness, or whatever you're trying to convey.
But also to memorize all of that.
Yeah, you're the writer, the producer, the director, the sole performer. Yeah.
And you know right away if you did it right or not, because you're going to get a laugh or not.
Exactly.
No fighting.
And there's nowhere to go, man. Nowhere.
All right, we'll be back right at this Everything Old is New Again. Talk about a little bit more about the creation of, and let's get into some topics to figure out, should we do X, Y, and Z? Let's see what's happening here behind the scenes. Everything Old is New Again, Unplugged.
Hey, this is John Delancey, and I am listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again. This is Hal Linden inviting you to enjoy Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is Jerry Cooney, former heavyweight contender. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Yes, you sure are. How about that? 3 new ones. That was John Delancey, Hal Linden, and Jerry Cooney introducing us. We've had those gentlemen on the show as well. David Cohen joining Douglas Viviani here. Everything Old is New Again.
Is it weird to hear these celebrities say your name?
It is, like,
right?
It is kind of crazy. It really is that they now. We've had John Billingsley on 4 times, or I have. You've been doing your thing, and he's going to be in Long Island at a convention in May, in a couple months. Now, my point is, he acts like, and we had a great time on the air, and we talked about books and boop, and we spent basically 4 hours together over let's say the last 6 months. I'm guessing no, but do you really think if I go up to him, and I'm going to do this because it's right down the block, so I'm going to say, hey, John, Douglas Viviani, and I'll wear my Everything Old is New Again shirt to give him like a hint, like it means anything, and see if he actually remembers. I'm just curious. Because I bet you 9 out of 10 times they do that so many times that it may not be special to them. It's certainly special to us.
I would think the only difference here is if he's been on it a number of times,
right?
Then maybe he'll remember you, because usually, if you're out pitching, I don't know, a book or whatever, you're not coming back to the same place again to talk about it, right? So you might have spoken to 20 people in the last week, but they're all different, and you'll probably never speak to them again unless you've got something else to pitch. But this show is great because you don't have to have something, right? Some guests just come back because they want to.
Yeah.
And I think in that respect, I wouldn't be surprised if he wouldn't know who you are.
Well, it's a great test, because John Noble from Fringe and some other things is going to be there as well. And he was on the show once, and he loved it. We have a great clip of him and blah, blah. And he was gregarious. But, we're not friends. I haven't talked to him in like 4 years. There's no way he remembers,
No.
But I'm going to do it with him, too. I just want to test this, because why not? And say, like I met Anson Mount last summer. Last November, I think it was actually, 6 months ago, at a convention with Rich Richter and those guys. And I went up to him and I talked to him. And I told him he was on the show and all this and what he was promoting at that time. And he, I think, pretended to remember.
He was
very gregarious and all, but you could see it in their eyes, like,
oh yes, Douglas. Oh, that was wonderful.
Yeah,
we talked about so many things. It was great.
But it's so embarrassing too, at some level, to do it like that. I did it in a way that I don't think you'll remember me, blah blah, to give them an out. But these guys, they must be put on the spot like that all the time. Remember, you signed an autograph in 1979.
Oh yeah, the kid with the baseball hat. Yeah, I remember you from 10 years ago. Sure.
Well, the only thing is that it's Zoom, so they did see the face, so they may say, "Yeah, I remember that schnoz," something. I don't know.
I think between the two of us, we have memorable schnozzes in different ways. So very unforgettable.
Yes, exactly. So let's now. How do we make another unforgettable show? Let's think about this.
Yeah, we're running out of time, so we better make this one.
Exactly. We were talking about stories, so we have that. I mean, I could do more stories and
in terms of like shows going forward.
Yeah. So
well, how I feel about that. I've told you in the past. I'm happy to say it again.
Well, since it's on the air, I'm just saying because I would never be telling any of these stories if it wasn't for David Cohen. I forget where it came from, a genesis of like a small story. I think you just kind of said let's keep going on this.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking is that it's. I don't know if you need to look at it as maybe a separate series of shows that you want to do, but I think that your storytelling is great and it's very unique, and I think it could stand on its own. And if that's all we did for the rest of the run of this show, I'd be very happy with that, because I think I think you're quite talented in that way, and I think people love listening to it.
Wow, thank you. And I'm going to blame you, but based on that encouragement, we've done, let me count them up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Holy smoke, 25 stories already.
Yeah.
So it adds up like.
Do you have any left? Do you have any left
tons.
in here?
I've got tons. I have one, my first Broadway show with the young lady.
Right.
Which should be very interesting. I also have my first autograph I ever got, which is those two.
Yeah, which on its
Sounds
face,
terrible.
it doesn't say
exactly
an autograph. Oh, tell us when that one's on, Doug, please. Exactly. I can't wait to hear you tell the story about when you got someone's autograph.
Exactly.
But it's like in the Goodfellas. It's the way you tell a story. You're funny the way you tell a story. But that's what. Yeah, go ahead.
That's the key is, they're kind of really mundane topics, all of them on the face of it, going to the beach. Okay. Like what's that about? But there's stuff that happens and all of that stuff or the cruise when it went down that slide,
Oh my God. That was, yeah. And I'm hearing now some of the stories I kind of remember because some of them are shared memories from when we were in high school, but the vast majority, either I forgot about or I wasn't there. So I'm hearing it for the first time. And, my reaction is completely honest, right? And, immediate. And I think that's what sort of like propels or makes the story even more interesting, because it's like you said before, it's not just one person sitting there talking into a mic and telling a story, right? A lot of times I might, and again, no, not intending to, but call you out on a certain point, like that story you told about Leo on Halloween,
right?
Where the kid got scared out of his wits driving in the car. If you're not familiar with that, you should go and listen to that one.
Yes.
Where I started calling you a bad parent, right?
Yeah, because I had actual evidence of it.
Right, you had a recording of your son absolutely screaming in terror. That was good radio.
Yeah, that was memorable. And we don't get a ton, but I did get some feedback on that one from quite a number of people.
Yeah. So I think again, it's a direction I would encourage you to keep going on, because I think it's great.
All right, so I will do
That's
that.
fun.
I appreciate that, and with the encouragement, and only with the encouragement, I will do it, because it is hard to do in some ways, and to keep coming up with the. Although as you get to a nostalgic kind of point of view, things you're telling one story, and sometimes oh my goodness, there's another story that just came out of the one I just told. Because the one about going to the first Broadway show came from. I'll tell it because it's not. I don't think it'll ruin it. But Betty Buckley, who was in Cats originally on Broadway, is everybody familiar with her? I don't know. She sang the Memories song.
Sure.
Amazing voice, and she was in 8 Is Enough, and so the story revolves around her, and it came from me asking her to be on the show. And I'm knocking wood because they do this sometimes, and it doesn't happen. But they said yes, come back to us in April, and we'll line up a date. So. That, and then inspired me to say, well, I got to tell this story first so that I could send it to her and see what she thinks. But whether she likes it now, it comes on the show or not, doesn't matter. I'm just in life, when you're thinking about something, now you're on a train of, oh, that's a good story. I hadn't been on that train for 30 years, but now they're starting to all come back. So
that's great.
So there's plenty of stories. And raising kids is an easy topic too. I mean, there's stuff there always. Especially.
Well, a lot of your stories too, not to keep harping on it, but what I think is great is not only, again, Joe Pesci thing, not only in the way you tell the story, but they're so relatable. That's the thing. Like whatever you experienced, and usually there's some form of humiliation involved with the story. But it's like everyone can relate to it, right? It might not be that particular thing that happened to me, but I remember a time where I felt exactly like that.
Right.
And I think that's what makes them so great. They're so relatable.
Like you go to a Halloween party and something dastardly happens to your date. Somebody throws a baseball and hits him on the head. That nonsense. It just goes on and on. All right. So then the next question then is, we've got a few minutes. We'll go into the next thing is, interviews with celebrities. I feel that it works. It's fun. I don't want the show to be that, but every so often I do enjoy that kind of thing. Especially like we said, we saw Hal Linden. I mean, we watched Barney Miller when we were like 15 or whatever it was, and now here he is talking to us. It's a kick, Yeah,
it really is. So really, yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. I know you put a lot of time and effort in trying to wrangle up celebrities that come on and talk. Well, speaking of people who obviously would remember you and knows you very well, we have something coming up with our friend Peter Weller again soon. So that's always something we look forward to.
Absolutely. And he devotes a lot of time too. He'll do a number of shows with us, 2 or 3 hours he'll spend, and we'll just all of a sudden there's 3-4 shows we've created because this guy is a fountain of information. We've never hit the same topic twice, and he's been on probably show-wise 10 shows, maybe more.
Yeah.
And
you remember during the pandemic, we were still doing shows.
Yep.
He came on during the pandemic too. I remember that.
Yeah. And we just continued to do new topics, from jazz to art to architecture to everything old is new again to whatever. So yeah, he has a new book, believe it or not, coming out that he's going to be promoting. So it's about his favorite artists, and he wanted to come on. And I said, listen, I'm not doing this until I get the book. The book was delayed until being released like May 1st or something. So it's going to be around in May sometime. So I got to read the book, or at least look at the book. I don't want to just talk to you off the top of my head. Like I want to get into this.
Right. Yeah.
So he said, so he'll wait. He's going to be actually in Sweden. Believe it, a tough life. He's going to be in Sweden at the time. And he's going to call in from his hotel room and do it. So we might see.
Can you imagine what kind of hotel room he's got?
Yeah, exactly.
Which room of the hotel room will he be calling us from?
Where are you? I'm in the closet. There's a chandelier in the closet?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we'll be back on Everything Old is New Again to continue behind the scenes. What's going on with Everything Old is New Again?
Hey, this is Richard Kahn. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again. But what you're listening to is new and has nothing to do with old. They're just talking about old. But this is all new.
Hello, this is Martin Cove, a.k.a. John Kreese. And you're listening to Everything That's Old and New. And make sure you listen real tight.
Martin Cove there. Everything that's old and new. Okay. Well, that's Kreese. He's from Cobra Kai, and we can't cross him. We can, I don't want him knocking on my door.
No, me neither.
Those fists and karate. He's from Cobra Kai. And I know, David Cohen, have you seen Cobra Kai yet? 6 seasons.
Yeah, I can't say I'm up to speed on the last season or 2, possibly, but I was a big fan, at least the first three seasons at least. Yeah.
So then you recognize Kreese, you know him.
Oh, sure.
He's been on the show. It's interesting. That show's doing something that I think is really smart, because I've seen it in my house, where it's hard to get kids to watch anything from the past. I don't care what it is, So we started with the Karate Kid movies with the kids, and Leo really enjoyed it. And then I played them very recently, and then I said, by the way, there's a sequel show. Like I had seen all the way up to the middle of season 6. And I said, it's been so long. It's been on for like 5 or 6 years now. So I said, let's go back. And my wife, even, who doesn't watch this kind of TV, got involved. And Leo and I and Angelica. And so it's a family show in that Juliana grew up with Karate Kid movies and loved Ralph Macchio back in the day, right? And so did we, kind of. I didn't love them, but loved the movies.
Yeah.
And the kids relating, of course, to the old movies. They like Ralph Macchio and all, and Johnny Lawrence, what have you, Bun Crease. They're familiar, but they're relating to the kids. The new stories.
Right.
So it is new to them.
Yes.
So they're doing everything old is new again perfectly, if that makes sense.
They actually, that's a good point. They are doing it perfectly, right?
Yeah.
It's old and new again.
And I think also Stranger Things, we're going to try that next because they have the kids and the adults as well.
Sure, it's like that could be a little frightening, but
well, Leo's been frightened by me before, and he'll be frightened again. That's no doubt about that.
Yeah, if he could survive what you put him through, I think he can handle Stranger Things. Yeah.
And sometimes when I see his, got an alarm going off here. Sometimes when I see his grades, I'm alarmed. So it goes both ways. Just kidding, Leo. All right, so now,
kinda.
Ixnay on the K. All right, so now here's the thing. Let's see about some topics. We've talked about, some guests coming on board. We've talked about doing some stories. Oh, what about characters? We haven't done characters in quite a while. I think, well, first of all, what do you think of the characters? We don't want to overdo them, but it's been quite a while now. We've kind of backed off. Do we revisit? Do we just leave them where they are? What do you think? Create new ones?
I mean, well, I'm not crazy about the characters, to be honest with you. Only because I think, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not crazy about them. I can't put my finger on it because I think everything else that we do on the show is really good. And not that the characters aren't. Right. I just don't think it's necessary.
Right.
I think that's part of it. But I could be, I'm open. I can be convinced otherwise, and we can do it. I think part of the thing with the characters is it's so unscripted.
Right.
That I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's like anything. Sometimes it works really good, really well, and sometimes it just meanders.
It meanders, right?
Yeah.
And when it meanders, it's like, I don't know. Maybe that's not a bad thing either. But again, I can't put my finger on it. But I'm willing to try it, especially if we come up with something new.
Right. Or a new idea with them. Like when we did the Halloween, I think when we did the Halloween. And we did all the characters, or not all, but we did like 4 characters in different vignettes. One visiting the grave and being scared there, and the other one, and the ghosts and all that stuff, and then going back in time and having Holmes and Watson solve the mystery of the lady of what the heck was it, Mount Misery Road. Like I thought that was at least it had a premise.
That's true.
And
that's true.
It played out.
You know what gets confusing when there's too many characters going on, I think, and we're there also. Doug and David are there, and I think so, I don't know if a listener really understands what's happening here.
See, that's my influence from Bob and Ray, which they did that. I'm not saying we're Bob and Ray, but they did voices that were just barely different than their voice, and you knew what they were. And
maybe if we just limit the number of characters on a certain show instead of having 8 different characters coming into the studio. Like what voice is that?
We've done it so much where we've got Pumpkinhead is actually friends now with Watson because they both commiserate with not liking their other half, so to speak.
Their other halves, exactly. But I think the Holmes Watson thing, I think it's a good theme where Watson is the one that solves the crimes. Right. I think that's really funny. And I think we haven't done Barbecue Guy and Fondue Guy in a while. And I think after a while, I don't know, to me, especially Barbecue Guy and Fondue Guy, it just, you run out of things to talk about. Right. Because they're at a barbecue or they're, I don't know. Again, I don't mean to downplay it. I'm open to doing it, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, we'll see. I was thinking of having them visit a Yankee game since the last time we had them on a couple of years ago. They went to a polo match.
Right, but why are they going to a? See, this is getting back to the old way.
Exactly.
Why are they at a Yankee? Why do people care that they're at a Yankee game? What's happening? Instead of just the bickering between them two, like, is there a point to the whole?
Yes, we'll have to create that. They want to go to Old Timers game, and it has to be a whole story to it. There has to be
it has to have a beginning, middle, and an end. It can't just be two guys hanging out at it. I mean, to me, anyway. Yes. Why am I listening to this? Yeah, which I'm thinking a lot of people are kind of asking that question right now. But anyway.
They say that all the time anyway. Now, so then beyond that, so now we've covered the basic stuff. Now, what about some topics, which is really what I like to do. I have a couple of topics I'm going to throw out there and see if there's any I don't know, any feedback that you feel it's got something. Now, these are not well-formed topics. They're just ideas. See if we can get
understood.
So,
okay.
I think people are people, and I think we all, as we talk about the stories, and I guess in some level, all share some commonality, no matter where we live. So you live, for example, in New York City, the most populated city in the country. I live in the town of Northport, which is one of the least populated, I guess, on Long Island. Well, in comparison, right? So mine's almost in a modern day Mayberry, though it's a long way from that. But you get what I'm saying. It's a small town.
Relative, yeah.
So, but do we have things in common, even though we're from completely, and not just us, but the people that live in these areas are completely different? Cosmopolitan versus city, city cosmopolitan versus, urban, rural, suburbs. So if we were to go down Main Street, East Northport, Main Street, Northport, we'd see a Broadway-style playhouse, right? And they do Broadway-style plays, or older Broadway plays very well. We'd see a post office. We'd see a couple of bars. We'd see a wine store. We'd see, certain type of restaurants, themed restaurants. We'd have an opportunity to go fishing right by the water there, and so forth. And if you were to describe that, that's the same as a block in New York City. Same kind of things. So is there something to work with there, the commonality versus the differences of seeing a play at, I'm just using one example, at Engelman Theater versus on Broadway? And why is there a playhouse in Northport? Is there a need? Do people need to see that? It's only 30 minutes away or whatever, 45 minutes away in New York City to go see the real, whatever, the original play, so to speak. But why do we have a need for, a local tavern, what have you?
Yeah.
So anyway, and the history, like we have history tours, and certainly they have the same in New York City of the historic areas. So, we've got the Statue of Liberty, we've got a certain building that's been there since 1750s, and there's underground, believe it or not, there's underground passageways where the pirates used to come in to Northport. In
really?
Secret, yeah. So there's some interesting stuff there. So there's some commonality. I don't know. It's got to be fleshed out, but there's stuff there. No, you tell me.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good topic.
All right. So there's one. All right. How about who was your favorite author as a kid? Like we talk about authors that they made you read in school that you finally said, you know what, this is not bad. I don't mind reading this for English anyway. Is there one? I have one in mind, but just going to throw it at you.
Well, I remember in high school having to pick an author in English class and having to read like multiple books by that author. So I don't know why I picked Victor Hugo.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed all the novels I read by Victor Hugo, and that kind of led me on to other authors. So it was sort of a good intro.
I was Jules Verne. And H.G. Wells and Edgar Allan Poe. So
there you go. Right. Edgar Allan Poe too, right?
So those are timeless. All of those are timeless authors. Les Mis has been on Broadway or was on Broadway forever and so forth. All the authors we've just talked about still resonate to this day. Do we have any authors created in our lifetime that will be talked about 200 years ago, 200 years later, or 100 years later, like we're talking about who we just mentioned? And that would be interesting to dive into, see.
You're asking me to start reading books again, Doug. I'm not going to do that. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going to hold there because we have a commercial break. We'll be back and just going to tease that a little bit more. We'll be back and everything old is new again. Unplugged.
Hi, this is Tom Dreesen. After 50 years of stand-up comedy, there's nothing I enjoy more than listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is Walter Koenig, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, this is comedian Wayne Fetterman. I am the author of a new book called The History of Stand-Up, From Mark Twain to Dave Chappelle, and I am on Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Wayne Fetterman and Walter Koenig.
Good friend of yours,
Yeah.
Wayne Fetterman.
All right, guy. I'm going to get back to him.
Do you?
I just it's in my claw that he's not responding, and he did respond and said yes, and then I said when, and he never got back, and then I got back, revisited him again. Oh yeah, I'll do it, and then he never got to. He's saying yes, but he really doesn't want to.
Yeah,
I want to force him on the show. I really do. I want to have confrontations now with him.
Why?
I don't know. He's under my claw. I'm upset.
Well, if no one, well, you probably give a little background to
Yes.
what happened, but yeah, I think that he wasn't thrilled with the way the interview went. The only instance I can recall of an interviewee on our show just not being totally happy with it because of certain things you said, certain things I said that kind of questioned what he wrote about.
Yeah, his theme of his book.
We dared to probe into it. And I think he was taken aback by that. And look, everyone has reactions. You're entitled to disagree or to argue, and you're entitled also to keep saying, "Yeah, I'll get back to you, Doug," and never do.
Exactly.
So I think you got to take a hint.
No, but I'm entitled to keep on asking.
Yeah, but why? Why?
No, it's true. I'm really not harassing him. I haven't done it in a long time. But I every time I hear that, it kind of gets me like, oh,
it triggers you.
Yeah, it does. It triggers me. It's true. Because I don't know that we did. And it was good natured, and he kind of smiled through it. But he was used to fluff. He just wanted fluff. He just wanted us to talk about how great the author was and how great the idea was for this book about stand-up comedy and all that. And all I was doing was questioning, saying, is this person really funny, or why do you think? I was just questioning his themes in the book. That's all. Yeah. And if you're an author of a book like that,
personal.
I think exactly. I think you'd want to, explore that and have some fun with it. Go back and listen to it. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. It's been so long. But there's something, I don't know what it is. There's something, and I don't care about pleasing people or not. I really don't.
Yeah, do you really?
I don't know. I don't want. I think it would be great radio to have him come back and explain why he was taken aback.
Well, first of all, number one, he probably won't even remember.
Yeah, now he won't.
And number two, if he actually took the time and listened to it, he'd probably be like, I don't know, I wasn't upset. What did?
It's true. Yeah, he won't explain it.
I just didn't really care.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the authors, just for a moment, just to finish that up,
I'll
just give you the name of one that I think would be talked about, and then we go.
A current author.
Yeah, I mean Stephen King's work. I think.
Oh, see, I knew whenever you say current or someone now, Doug's version of what is current means anything that happened from 1960 through 1985.
No,
that's current.
1962. All right, let's be clear.
You weren't born. Yeah, but post 1985, it's
that's hard.
It's the future. To you, that's the future.
It is.
So
Stephen come up with one. Tell me one. How about Dean Koontz?
Okay. Sure. But is that an author you think will be remembered in 200 years?
I don't know. How about Wilbur Smith?
I can't say I've heard of Wilbur Smith.
How about do you have any yourself?
Current authors?
Yeah.
No, because usually the stuff I read is old. Honestly, okay. I don't really read new novels too often.
All right, so that might not be a great idea. I don't know, but maybe there's something else to talk about with that.
Like I said, you're gonna make me read books.
Well, maybe we revisit like Sherlock Holmes. I know is another one you read through the whole thing. So maybe we revisit classic books that we could maybe revitalize a little bit. That are not like Treasure Island. I read with Leo, and actually is kind of fun. I mean, like, and I know you did that with Ben. You did
Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay. Oh wow. I thought you were
Count of Monte Cristo. Oh, and Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. I know you did, but yeah. Right. Well, all right. Maybe Harry Potter might be talked about 200 years from now.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it probably will. It probably will.
So maybe that aspect would only be like a 10-minute segment, but the other 30 minutes we could talk about. Old classic books.
Yeah.
Because if you try to read Les Mis, by the way, good luck. Did you read it?
I did, but a long time ago.
I mean, that is it's a tome. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Right.
So, but there are like Radio Mystery Theater did it in 5 different nights.
So are you
5
putting a
hours.
limit on the number of pages in a book? Is that what we're
No,
doing?
but I'm wondering if it's going to translate. If you suggest someone to read that, and all of a sudden they go to the library and take it out or whatever, and they need a wheelbarrow to take it home, are they going to,
Yeah, it's a little intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
How many pages? But if it's a good book, you kind of fly through it a lot. You know?
True. Okay. Well, so there's an idea. I mean,
There's a show.
There's a show right there. There's enough there to talk about, and we don't have to agree. It's even better when we don't agree on these things.
True. I talked about a show with you a while ago, like very experimental, that I really think we should do. And
Can I guess? I'm going to guess because I have it on my mind.
Of course you know it. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Go ahead then. Tell me.
I know you know it. No, say it.
Doing the 2 shows at once simultaneously?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, have to do that. Explain that.
Yeah. So I forgot what the show was, but it was about you played this tape of someone in a kind of monotone voice, some woman reading a recipe.
Betty Crocker, I think it was.
What's that?
I think it was Betty Crocker.
Was it Betty Crocker
I think
herself?
so. Somebody famous like that. Anyway.
So she's reading this recipe, and it's a very dry, monotone read, and it just goes on, but it takes you step by step through the recipe. And I thought, listen, if you're not a big fan of Everything Old is New Again, or perhaps you don't like what we're talking about on that show, what'll happen is we'll play for the entire show someone reading a recipe. And so when they're reading the recipe, Doug and I won't speak.
But wait a minute, you're missing one point. But remember, they did the recipe, and then they paused for like 10 seconds for someone for you to write it down. That was the key.
That's what gave me the idea,
Yes.
right? They pause for you to write it down. That's crazy. So when they're pausing, Doug and I would do the show. And then when they resume, we would stop talking and the recipe would. So it's almost like, and I think sometimes it might flow under, like the voices might overlap. But the whole point is, if you don't like what Doug and I are talking about, listen, this is how to make a really great marble cake,
Exactly.
or roast turkey. And I think we should try it. I think it could be funny.
The only thing I have on wrestling with is, do we do it from, I think it was Betty Crocker, but whatever it is, that original recording, which I think probably would be funnier, or do we do it where, I'm reading in that way so that we know the time frame, but we could play with the time in between.
I think it would have to be a voice that does not sound like us.
Yeah, and I'm saying
Just
for the time for us
contrast.
to do the show, I could make that gap even longer just by editing it, the pause between her and us a little bit longer to make it if we needed it. So I just thought through it myself. That's actually the way to do it, is to have her.
I think it would
do
just sound so weird. It would. I
love it.
I think it's
yes, we're definitely doing that. It's on the list for sure
All right,
for this
cool.
year. That's for sure. How about one? I have so many of these. We may have to do another show of this, but how about this one? Quirky comedians. And what do I mean by that? Comedians that did stuff, some shtick, that it wasn't just straight stand-up, such as Andy Kaufman, Foster Brooks, who was always just drunk. You don't have to call me Johnson, did the same joke round the clock. Flip Wilson, who basically, he did other stuff, but he did Geraldine, was, I guess, his funniest thing, right? The unknown comic that came out with the bag on his head. Always did that. J.J. Walker, Jimmy J.J. Walker, that's dynamite. Like, that was it. So it fascinates me to have a very successful... Andy Kaufman's a little different than this, but I was going to put him in that group of doing a shtick or doing one kind of thing all the time and being highly successful at it, but the unknown comic did different jokes, but he was always the same with the bag and the fast delivery. Henny Youngman was always with the violin telling these one-liners, right? But they were not multifaceted, or were they? Like, was that talented? Was that just a shtick? Why did we like it so much? Why do we still even know Henny Youngman to this day? Maybe most people don't at this point, but it's just a weird, it's not just stand-up. And it's not just doing movies or what. It's a weird subsection of comedy to me. You tell me. I don't know.
Are there any comics that do that anymore? Where it's just like a shtick?
It's a good question. I'd have to do some research. It's a great question.
Because maybe it would be, I think, good to include, if people are doing that now, include them as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Comedy is almost dead.
I
mean, these days I'm seeing in the clubs and stuff. Maybe it's coming back a little bit, but you know what I mean. Like it's hard to see. I'll look for it. Last one I could think of, and this is back in the '80s, so this is not relevant. Relevant to your discussion, but the newest one of those to me would be Bob Nelson. Remember, we saw him, and he did all those. He was like a
goofy character,
prop comic and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Which is kind of like that. I haven't seen anybody since really do that. We have to look into that. That's a great point. And
but
if not, why not?
I like the show. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of cool. All right, we'll be back next week on Everything Old is New Again. I'm going to continue this, like it or not, and still peel back the onion a little bit more, and then the week after next, we'll get back to the thrills and adventure of actual clips to join us. We'll be back on Everything Old is New Again. These days, the news is full of teen suicide, drug, and alcohol abuse. It's depressing and concerning, but there is hope. Former WWE Intercontinental Champion Mark Merrow.
Champion Choice is a live presentation that empowers students to make positive choices and live their best lives. Teach students how to live a drug-free life, prevent bullying, avoid peer pressure, and keep negative people out of their lives. We are defined by our choices. There is hope.
To schedule a Champion Choices presentation for your school or organization, visit thinkpos.org.